Hi, everybody. It's Genge back here again from Alexio Corporation. I am a certified privacy and cybersecurity professional, but I have a real passion for cybersecurity education. And the reason, as I've said before, is that really cybersecurity is for everyone. Every single person works with technology every day, smartphones, tablets, computers. We have a lot to think about when we are trying to protect our own information or our customer, our work information. And so today in part two, we're going to talk about a few different things. One is going to be the idea that passphrases are stronger than passwords. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at what is multi-factor authentication. You hear that term a lot, but it's still not completely understood. We're going to talk about safe shopping and a tactic commonly used by cybercriminals called phishing. So let's dig right in. Now, when we think about passwords and passphrases, we all know that the longer they are, the harder they are to crack. But still, some people want to use just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or I love you. Now, complexity is helpful. Numbers, letters, upper and lower case, special characters, but really the length is the key. You can use passphrases or even sentences to create a much stronger password, but actually as a phrase you may understand, and then mix up some extra characters in there. Again, as we talked about in part one, a password manager really is ultimate. It can help you keep everything straight, help you create unique passwords and logins for all the different online accounts that you have. And this is very important because we know that cyber criminals, once they get a hold of your user pass and password from any other online site, they'll use that to try to hack into all sorts of other online accounts that you might have. So this is really important. You need to have unique users, user login and passwords or passphrases, and they need to be different for every single online account that you have. Now, your workplace probably has their own password policies, so you should really familiarize yourself with that as well. Now, the next thing is you hear all the time, enable 2FA or two-factor authentication or two-factor login, multi-factor authentication. These are all the same things. And really, one of my big peeves with the industry is that they don't do a great job of creating language that everyday people will understand. And I think we have a long way to go there. But anyway, let's just look at what this means to you. Now, we need to understand that obviously 2 locks are better than 1. Having 2 or more authentication steps makes it harder for an attacker to breach your account. Authentication just means how to prove you are who you are. Multi-factor can be made up of something you have, something you are, something you know, sort of like having an ATM card and knowing the PIN for it. Something you are includes things like biometrics, which is really just sort of your fingerprint or a face scan or an iris scan. Some of you are deploying this type of technology or using it every day, for example, just on newer iPhones. If someone knows your password but doesn't have access to a code texted to you or your phone, you're still protected. This is really important. Enable multi-factor authentication on every single account that you can. Social media, email, or any other type of account that has that feature. But especially you want to do that on any financial accounts. If you're using a bank that doesn't offer multi-factor authentication, you should really just consider switching banks. So speaking of our money, there's a lot we need to consider when we're looking at safe shopping online. When shopping online, you must create a unique account for every different shopping site you use and create a unique password for each of them because of what I just told you a few minutes ago. That is that cyber criminals will get a hold of your credentials from a breached site. For example, there have been many different online types of sites that have been breached, and they'll get your credentials from there, and then they'll start trying to use it on your banking, PayPal, Netflix, eBay, all kinds of different accounts where you may have used the same credentials. So again, these are really easily handled with something like Password Manager. Now, you really want to make sure you also aren't clicking on emails from merchants or shippers. Navigate to the site yourself and maybe use bookmarks for convenience instead of clicking on links within the actual emails. These can very easily be spoofed, and you can end up going to a bad website, or even end up downloading a malware onto your computer. If something looks too good to be true, obviously it probably is. And yet still, so many people get sucked into these types of crazy scams. The Better Business Bureau and online review sites are a good place to check to make sure that you're dealing with a reputable company. One last thing. When you look in your address bar, there is the beginning of any web address that starts with HTTP. Any secure site will have HTTPS, and the S on that stands for secure. Make sure you look for that when you're doing any online shopping or creating accounts that ask for any type of information. So, finally, let's talk about what happens. We talked a minute ago about online accounts getting breached. And what happens then also, even when they don't get your full credentials, is that those email addresses that you've used on those sites end up on big long lists that are then used for phishing attacks. Now, phishing is something that criminals use to try to get you to give them access to something, access to your computer, access to an account, or try to steal your identity. And they do this through email. Now, the telltale signs of phishing is sort of the too good to be true scenario, or they'll have a sense of urgency, or they'll have a fake familiarity. Again, the advice we gave in the previous segment was to slow down and take time to really read and look at logos and so on to make sure that they really look legit. And remember, phishers are using information that is publicly available about you to make you think you know them, or to make it seem that they're more credible to you. You really need to be looking at the sender's address. Hover over it and see, does it match what they're saying they are? So, for example, you could get an email from Apple, but when you hover over that email address and you look underneath, it's actually not from Apple at all. You really don't want to download any attachments if the email seems even remotely fishy. Just don't click on those links. Attachments and links are commonly malware, and they're all designed to trick you. This is what we call social engineering. These are tactics that are all designed to trick you into doing something because it's appealed to your sense of good-heartedness or a sense of urgency or fear that your account is going to be locked, and so on. I'm sure you've seen a number of them. If you want a lot more information about phishing, social engineering, and tactics used by cyber criminals, head on over to getalexio.com. There's lots more content there, especially in our blog. Thanks for taking the time to listen to part 2 of Cybersecurity is for Everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care and stay safe out there.